Well, we saw what the wide receivers can do today. That was refreshing. However, I am concerned about another position group, and you should be too.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to Penn State football, and as always, thank you so much for checking out another edition of Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily source for all things Penn State sports. My name is Zach Seyko, and I'm your host of the show, joined here by associate producer to the podcast, Zane Brancefield. Helps me collect a lot of the footage, a lot of press conferences and interviews that you see. Zane, we're here in Beaver Stadium after Penn State wins 46-11, but we got three main takeaways here. The run game, well, it wasn't the best, but it's going to be just fine. Defensive end room, well, Dani Dennis-Sutton looked like an All-American, but we knew that coming into the season. The rest of the defensive end room, that's a concern right now, and I'd say a big concern moving forward until otherwise. We got to begin with the positive, though. The positive, because Penn State is able to win by this kind of margin, 46-11, the wide receivers, particularly Kyron, Hudson, and Trebor Peña, it's refreshing. It's just a breath of fresh air. But I also want to state the fact that this team in Nevada is much further behind than where Penn State is. So this should be expected. This should be anticipated. But Trebor Peña and Kyron Hudson, I don't think Drew Allar couldn't get enough of either of them when he was targeting them. And that dynamic duo, and then eventually you're going to factor in a healthy Devonte Ross. Eventually he'll get there and be strongly in the mix. The three of them together, this trio, will do so much for the offense, but we saw a glimpse of it today, just how it will open up the ground game a little more in the future. But Drew Allar's confidence, Andy Kotelnicki's creativity in the playbook, these wide receivers are that important.
I think the big key there is, like Drew Allar was talking post-game, just about the complementary play that Penn State has between Nick and Kyron and then like the wide receivers now, because Penn State is no longer just that one-dimensional like threat. Like last year, it was Nick and Kyron run the ball or they're going to throw the ball to Tyler Warren. Well, now Penn State has this new dynamic. Okay, so Nick and Kyron don't have a big day. Trebor Peña and Kyron Hudson, like Zach said, stepped up. That's going to become Penn State's theme all year. They're going to build off each other. What's working one day isn't going to work another. And so the fact that Penn State has that is going to be huge. And Drew Allar's already said he likes the spacing, he likes the complementary play of that, and the fact that the wide receivers are coming and talking to him, and he's talking with them, and they're trying to figure out how they can each get better and improve each day and have that better timing to go forward. And so Penn State is trending the right direction. Obviously, this is Nevada, so you take it with a grain of salt, but you look at the good things that are going well, and the fact that Drew Allar is building chemistry with his wide receivers early on in the season, and like he said, Andy Kotelnicki is trusting him more today in a Week 1 game than what he did last year in a Week 1 game.
Well, who was more impressive to you? Because, like I said, Kyron Hudson and Trebor Peña were going bar for bar. It was back and forth, and it looked like it was going to be all Kyron Hudson, but then Trebor Peña just kind of chipped away at that receiving lead. He had the most receptions, but Hudson, at the end of the day, had more production, or at least was more important in this game plan. I think that is understandable at this point in time, but it could be any given day, any given night, where it's Trebor Peña, where it's Kyron Hudson, where it's Devonte Ross, where it's a mix of all three, and that's where Penn State's offense can be deadlier than a season ago, because you have the offensive line, you have the ground game, and I know we're going to discuss that. I know that didn't look the best today. It looked okay, and against, as you and I have agreed, it's Nevada, so how much stock do we want to put into this? But with that being said, are there lingering issues? No, there are not. This day was about the passing attack and getting them acclimated. So I think with where Trebor Peña, I'm honestly a little more surprised that Trebor Peña had as much of an impact, not because, he's a former all-conference player and he is he is versatile and they worked him in right away. That's the thing. He came in much later. Kyron Hudson had the time to build that chemistry with Drew Allar. He's had the time to learn Andy Kotelnicki's playbook. So for Peña to have this kind of impact, this kind of presence today, Zane, it speaks volumes to how quickly he got acclimated and built that rapport to, like I said, being rather than in a 1A, 1B situation as opposed to an understudy to Kyron Hudson, even with Devonte Ross out.
And you said you were surprised. James Franklin even said he was surprised about Trebor Peña's success today.
We're all on the same page.
And I'm with you too. I think Trebor Peña, I think he was the better player today for the fact that people weren't expecting that out of him as much. Kyron Hudson, everyone knew he was going to be consistent. Now, he's never had 1,000 yards in the season, but he's always been that contested catch guy with sure hands that people can trust him to catch the ball. Now, Trebor Peña's been good, but I just think that what he was able to prove today in this Penn State offense, while Kyron Hudson was also doing what he is expected to do, was big for Penn State, and I think that's just going to continue as the season goes on. And like you said, they'll take turns, whether it's Ross, Peña, or Hudson.
Yeah, exactly.
They're going to pick it up, and then maybe Khalil Dinkins or Luke Reynolds has a day in there, or Nick Singleton in the passing game. It can bounce around, and that's what makes Penn State have this dynamic of an offense that could truly become elite this year. I'm not saying they're elite yet, but they have the potential to be there by the end of the year. And I think that's what's going to take Penn State a long way here. And sure, Nick and Kyron didn't have a big day, but we've seen what they could do in last year and other years past. And so
we're going to get to them. We're going to get to them. We'll break that all down fully. But Drew Allar, efficient, 22 for 26, 217, 1 passing touchdown. Also the second leading rusher, for what it's worth. 6 carries, 20 rushing yards, and no rushing TDs. But Kyron Hudson, 6 catches, 89 yards, 1 touchdown. That's what you can expect on a week-to-week basis. And like other people have pointed out, and we're going to continue to point out, is it's the variety it's the diversity within this offense, that it's not just Nicholas Singleton or Kaytron Allen and then Tyler Warren. Kyron Hudson, eventually Devonte Ross, Trebor Peña. Speaking of Trebor Peña, 7 catches, 74 yards. So like I said, Drew Allar just couldn't decide. I got to go to one, I got to go to the other there. So that more of this will continue, and it's only going to get better. Just think of this as the level 1, the starting point. This is not the finished product. It's only going to evolve. Again, it is only Nevada, but it's a positive step in the right direction. Now, Dani Dennis-Sutton had an all-world performance. The only thing that he didn't get was an interception. Zane Durant did that, but at defensive end, this has gone from cautious optimism for the youngsters to I am concerned. We're going to talk about that next here on this post-game recap of Locked On Nittany Lions. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. College football is back, as you can see, and I couldn't be more excited. All of you couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real, actually getting tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. Now that's why I use Gametime, the app that gives you the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. You can pull up Gametime right now, and in just a couple of taps, you'll see those amazing deals, and I'm talking your favorite college football games for as low as $25. And if you've never been to Beaver Stadium, if you've never been to a Penn State football game, well, Gametime has Penn State football tickets, but the point of view ahead of time, so you're not wondering what the game's going to look like. That's the game changer with Gametime. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. That is promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. Zane, I'll start with the young, upcoming defensive ends because they have to get situated ASAP. Okay, if Zuriah Fisher, we don't know what's going on with Zuriah Fisher. And it's going to be a tentative thing, but I know that Penn State doesn't feel, they know, they're confident that they can win without him. But then you get to that whiteout game, you get to that game against Oregon, everything changes. Okay, I wasn't expecting Chaz Coleman to have 3 sacks, all these tackles for loss, just live in the backfield. But I did maybe expect, and he was close at times. He was close on 2 occasions to getting his first career sack. So it's going to happen sooner rather than later. But I did see Coleman, hey, he does look like a true freshman. He does look like somebody who hasn't been playing a lot of defensive end. Same thing with Yvonne Chemistoo. Just, you're a true freshman. You're showing the inexperience at this point in time and just kind of struggling, just kind of dancing with guys that eventually you will surpass. You will be better than your offensive tackle counterpart. So I chalk this up to inexperience, but how long can Penn State allow that to go on, Zane, because, it's okay against Nevada, FIU, Villanova to have those growing pains, but you can't have those weak performances, because then Oregon's going to capitalize on that, run right at you, and Dante Moore's going to have all day to throw, and then the back end of the defense, which looked really good today and showed its depth, it's going to be, they talk about complementary football, it's going to be the inverse of that.
Yeah, like you said, you got these young guys on the team. You mentioned FIU and Villanova, and that's what's so crucial for Penn State, is that they do have those games on the schedule to get these guys some snaps and give them time to grow. But also, you didn't talk about Jalen Harvey, who was
Jalen Harvey, Malachi Williams. They're in this group too. Yes.
And Jalen Harvey actually started today opposite Dani Dennis-Sutton, and frankly, I thought he was going to do a little bit more. I think he had one QB pressure or something on actually in the stat sheet, but going forward, Penn State's going to need him to step up, because you get to those tougher opponents, your Oregons, your Ohio States, in the playoff competition, then if teams are smart, they're going to double team Dani Dennis-Sutton, and
I'm glad you made that point.
And then you're going to have nobody to pressure on the other side unless one of these young guys is going to step up, because that defensive end room outside of Dani Dennis-Sutton and Zuriah Fisher is very young. Jalen Harvey's a second-year player, right?
Yep. Second year, Malachi Williams. Second year, Chemistoo and Coleman, both first-year players, true freshmen. You don't have Max Granville either, right? Max Granville would have been not necessarily I wanted to say perfect replacement if Zuriah Fisher was going to be absent, but now both of them are absent. And you go from, somebody that, did play early on and was expected to have that breakout season, and right now you have neither of them. So Dani Dennis-Sutton, I'm glad you brought up the double team, because DDS talked about it in his post-game press conference, which is also up on the Locked On Nittany Lions YouTube, is that, Nevada, I was able to win my one-on-one matchups. They didn't do a lot of double teams, a lot of chips, so they wanted to, take that gamble, and they lost. Okay, so that's how Dennis-Sutton was able to capitalize on that, because he was just so much significantly better, and they left their tackles on islands. But it also speaks to, Coleman, Chemistoo, Williams, Harvey didn't have a semblance of production either. Like I said, Coleman got close. You can see the breakthrough getting ready to happen sooner rather than later. But when DDS is double teamed, and if you don't have Zuriah Fisher, who can operate and be self-sufficient, Jim Knowles will be able to scheme around this. I do want to give positive. This isn't, this is the end of it. Penn State can't be a title contending team. You do need to figure this out and get them these reps ASAP and continue to do what you're doing. But Jim Knowles is experienced. He's been doing this for a long time. So you will dial up different pressure. You will dial up different looks to help out those freshmen and second-year defensive ends, so that they don't get into, because then that's a bad defensive coordinator. And we know that Knowles is not a bad defensive coordinator. Three turnovers. But the big part here is Dani Dennis-Sutton should be, if you didn't think he was already, an All-America talent. I saw the questions back and forth. Is he better than Abdul Carter? Okay, remember, again, it is Nevada, and the game plan at least opened up a lot of avenues for Dennis-Sutton to succeed today. But I will say that I'm confident that he's a first-round pick, not just from sheer athleticism, the raw potential. He's got the it factor. He's a leader. He has the right kind of emotions, everything that you would want in terms of size, athletic ability, smarts, the way he carries himself. Dani Dennis-Sutton is a future first-round pick. I don't know about top 3, okay? I will need to continue to see it, but, he had a similar, everyone looks at Abdul Carter. Dennis-Sutton had a similar performance against Notre Dame where it was just so impactful. But you can line it. He's not just an edge rusher where he just runs upfield and tries to get after the quarterback. He can do so many things. And if NFL franchises haven't caught on to that, well, then they're missing out.
Yeah, like you said, Dani Dennis-Sutton, complete package. Even had an interception in that Notre Dame game.
Exactly. That's what I mean. He's not just going after the QB.
He's a complete package. And going forward, like you said, you have to address these things, but there are things about defensive end that are good and things that are going to need worked on. But the big thing, like you said, is Jim Knowles is going to scheme around this. If you look, Jim knows which players he can trust and which players he can't. Dom DeLuca, Tony Rojas, and Mari Campbell played almost the entire game when the 1s and 2s were in the game.
Yep.
He knows he can trust them. He's going to look the same thing at the defensive ends and figure out which guys can he trust, which guys can he scheme around, what can he put in different positions, and he's going to figure that out. There's a reason he came to Penn State. There's a reason the whole staff likes him. There's a reason the players love playing in his defense. When we've talked to them, they're all excited.
You see it. Three turnovers right early in the game.
So Jim Knowles is going to figure it out. Yes, it's Nevada, but what's important to look at isn't the opponent necessarily, but the things that they're doing on the field. They're looking at things differently. They're adjusting when needed to. And frankly, they're just getting better as the game went on. And so if you look at that going to next week, they should be getting better. I'm not saying they're going to have more turnovers next week or the next week after that. But what's important is they're going to continue to make adjustments, not only during games, but also out of practice, to just become that complete defense like Jim Knowles created when he was at Ohio State last year and they won the championship.
Yep. Dani Dennis-Sutton finished with 4 total tackles, but more importantly, 2 forced fumbles, and did have 1 sack. And he answered my question. I wanted to ask him about it. Do you still think about the sack record that was set by Courtney Brown a while back? And he's like, yeah, I do. He's like, I try not to focus on stats, but that's definitely something that just, crosses my mind periodically, that it would take a lot. I think he's officially 16 away. He would need 16 to tie it, and then he would need 17 to break it. It is not impossible. Don't think it's impossible. It is doable, but it is difficult. So we'll continue to monitor that. And again, guys can get. I think Terrell Suggs had 22 sacks in a season. Yeah, at Arizona State. So, like I said, it is possible with a 17-game schedule. There you go, 1 sack per game, a little over there. So let's continue with some of the other things that we thought stood out here. The big takeaway of the ground game, because the offensive line's back. I think they're the Joe Moore Award finalist at an absolute minimum. I think they should be the favorite. The offensive line certainly didn't get in the groove today, and because of that, neither did the ground game. Nicholas Singleton and Kyron Allen seemed really ineffective. Well, why is that? We're going to talk about that next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And today's episode is also brought to you by Upside. Hey, Nittany Lion fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Well, stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code FOOTBALL, that's football, and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it is totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code FOOTBALL for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That is promo code FOOTBALL. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. All right, let's finish up with the last main point here. Again, there's so much you can analyze with a game like today. It's a season opener. This isn't a finished product. The offensive line in the ground game, they had that moment against they dominated against West Virginia. Why did they dominate against West Virginia? Because there was the need to. Okay, Nevada's an opponent where you can try some different things, and like I said, I started the show off with this. So the reason the ground game never really materialized is because they never built that momentum. This was about building up the passing attack. Because why is Kyron Allen and Nicholas Singleton each getting 8 carries in a game where, again, they win by over 30 points? Because the game script dictates it by the opponent that you're facing. You don't need to run the ball. You don't need to shorten the game intentionally like you do on the road against a physical West Virginia team. If we're going to compare and contrast season openers here, there's different objectives. James Franklin and the staff, they want to see the young players get involved. They want to see what they have with the newness of this team. So the passing attack, what do you have in Trebor Peña? What do you have in Kyron Hudson? Again, the opponent's not going to tell you everything, but it'll tell you something. And the ground, it's like a snowball. It's going to build momentum as it goes downhill. So I don't think the offensive line and the running backs in particular really got the momentum going that they needed. Okay, I do think Nevada was very cautious of the ground game because they knew that's what Penn State's going to be built off. We all know this. We know that it's going to be Penn State's bread and butter. They're going to default to that. We saw a little bit of it today with those 6 and 7 offensive lineman formations. That's going to be a thing. Andy Kotelnicki is going to run the football, and this will be a physical team when it's that time. But I expect more of the same against FIU and Villanova, where it's just going to be, balanced, but it's going to shade. It's going to focus a little more on the passing attack because you need to figure that out. You don't need to figure out the running game because you have 5 of your core offensive linemen back from a year ago, 100%, despite losing a true starter, but because of what Donko and Rugiet did respectively, you can make the case, hey, they do have 5 out of 5 offensive linemen here, and then 2 other starting caliber players that are going to get into the mix. Kaytron Allen and Nicholas Singleton, they form the best dynamic duo, the best backfield in the entire country. We saw Cam Wallace be electrifying at the end of the game. Somebody who had a serious double leg injury, hurdling somebody in his first game back, and how quickly he was able to come back from that. We should be impressed with the work and the effort that Wallace put into that. So Zane, I have no qualms. I have no concerns with the ground game. I do want to see Penn State finish drives, so that's more about the play calling and the execution. That's not necessarily just on the ground game. So long-winded answer, no, I'm not concerned. Nobody should be. It was just not their day.
I'm with you. I'm not concerned about the ground game either. We've seen, this is both of their 4th season here. We've seen what they've done every single season coming up to this point. It's one game. You can't have 100 yards every single game, and you said they each had.
I was expecting that. I was expecting to have those, but like I said, Nevada countered for. They were planning for it. They wanted to try to take away the run, and at the same time also take away the explosive plays. So they were very. It kept Penn State under 50. It also allowed for the backdoor cover. Nevada did cover today, so that was. Under the circumstances, I do think Nevada put actually a really intelligent game plan together, but Penn State's just able to outmuscle you. Even if you play a perfect game of chess, it's all queens on the board versus all pawns.
Yeah, they just try to make Penn State one-dimensional and take away their run game and make them pass. And, for the most part, you could say that worked.
Pick your poison, right?
So Penn State beat them in the air today. Yep. Maybe next week it's on the ground when they win that game. But you shouldn't be concerned about this quite yet. Maybe it's a different problem in a few weeks, but as of right now, we know what they're capable of. We know that Stan Drayton's been working hard with them to allow them to see the field in different ways that I guess they weren't able to before, he said.
Yeah, about Singleton and Allen specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so as that goes forward, Penn State is able to get the run game. Like you said, we saw it late in the game with Cam Wallace, even a little bit with Corey Smith. So it's not that they can't get that to work, it's just a matter of when it will work. And so when Penn State needs that run game to step up, they'll step up. But right now, I'm not concerned about it either.
I also think there's a little bit of a rust factor in here. I want to put value on the importance of chemistry. This is a new offensive. Okay, it's the same 5 that have returned, and the talent, and they're better, they're bigger, faster, stronger, smarter. But Anthony Donko and Nolan Rugiet did not play together on that right side. Nick Dawkins has not played alongside them simultaneously. Donko is technically out of position, moving from right tackle to right guard. This is Penn State's best version of its offensive line, and it's only going to get better. And I want to point out last season, they did get better. Their best performances were in the Big Ten Championship, SMU, Notre Dame, I'm forgetting Boise State in that order, but the most consequential games, and Penn State's offensive line absolutely mauled pretty good front sevens. I'd argue those were at a minimum all top 20 front sevens from a season ago. So that same group is back. This season, they're going to reach that level and then some, and sooner rather than later. But do note that Donko and Rugiet having to settle in and again build comprehensive chemistry from left to right all the way across the board, and then factor in Cooper Cousins and TJ Shanahan as well in those 6-7 offensive line formations. Again, not the final product. We are seeing the base level of it, and it's only going to get stronger as they continue to work that time together. So Zane, appreciate it. Appreciate your time, actually. Here at Beaver Stadium, it's great to be back for another season. So thank you so much, because we wouldn't be able to do this. We wouldn't be able to have this conversation without all of you. So thank you to the everydayers for making us a part of your daily routine. We do this daily. Football, recruiting, basketball, wrestling, talk about it all right here on Locked On Nittany Lions. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcast. Zane, thank you so much again for helping me out. You can check out his work. Links to his social media will be in the description. My name is Zach Seyko, your host as always, and we'll have continued conversations and discussions to break down this game and to preview what's to come for Penn State football here on Locked On Nittany Lions.